piece will fit in there. The key to this is it's like a puzzle. You're trying to find how pieces fit sort of more naturally. So like this one I kind of like, you know, right in here. It's got that good shape to fit in there. And then for color, you know, I don't mind the ones with the bigger sapwood edges being out on the edge, because if I lose a little of the sapwood, I'm not that disappointed. So just, you know, trying to find that sort of happy medium where everything works. You know, have a piece that'll go in there, and you know, have a piece that'll fill up this thing over here. But that right there, it's not terrible. So we just got to see. We'll arrange them as we go, and as we cut them, we'll just see how everything continues to fit together. Just like that. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take all these pieces that we've cut to fit like a jigsaw puzzle, and we're going to put a bead of caulk on the bottom of it. And this is going to do two things. It's going to hold it down so that when I pour resin, it doesn't float, but it's also going to minimize the amount of resin that goes underneath the piece, and that's going to save us some money on a very expensive product. So that just gets stuck in like that, and all we do is take them one at a time, just as we had them. Just as we had them in here. We're just going to take them and slip them into here, one piece at a time. So the next step is to cut the little pieces that are going to fill in you know, like this and that, this up here, this piece here, this. And then once those are all in, then it's going to be time to pour resin. That's the fun part. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix up the epoxy, and you can see right here, this is a 3 to 1 to 1, so we can do a 3 to 1 or we can do a 3 to 1 to 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to pour up to the 5 with the part A, and then we're going to pour up to the 5 here with the part B, and that will be the proper mix. Then we're going to mix them. They're going to, when you pour them together and you start mixing, they're going to look yellow. You mix them until they're clear. So again, this is the resin. And we're going to stop at 5. And then this is the hardener. So we just mix this, and you can see that it's cloudy and it's still a little bit colored. And we just want to go. You want to scrape down the sides as you go. You want to scrape the bottom as you go. And just mix them up. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start bringing some color into this. And, you know, a lot of people will worry about measuring it. I really don't. I'm going for black. And, you know, once you get it mixed in, black is black. And then we're going to look at the light through it and make sure that it's dark enough that it's going to be what we want it to be. I transferred the resin into a smaller cup because this I can create a little pour spout, and I can get a little bit tighter in on the cracks here. I'm just going to go ahead and pick a spot, start pouring this stuff in. It'll fill the cracks pretty quickly. Now we let it sit a couple hours and see where it goes. You can still see that there's some lines in here from the milling process when we flatten it out. So right now I'm just going to go over it with the belt sander, which is, it'll take off the maximum amount of material in a minimum amount of time. Try and get all these marks out of it, and then we'll sand it from 100, 120, 150, and 220 grit. And at 220 grit, we'll water pop it a couple of times, meaning we'll put water on it, raise the grain, and sand it down so that the grain is nice and tight. And then after that, we finish it and we frame it, and then it's art. So let's go ahead and get started on the sanding. The piece has been trimmed to size, it's been sanded, it's been water popped, it's ready for finish. What I did though, off camera, you can see the blue tape here. We're going to use Osmo, which is one of my favorite finishes. Osmo is a great finish. It's easy to put on, it's hard to mess up. It gives you a really good finish. And if you want something harder, if you're worried about using a wood oil and hard wax finish versus like a poly finish, you can always put a ceramic coating over it. The one thing about this is, if this gets screwed up, you can easily just sand the spot that's screwed up and redo it. If you do like a polyurethane coating or a lacquer coating or something like that, you've got to strip the whole piece and redo the entire coating from scratch. So this is a great deal. I love it on furniture because if you know, a little kid comes by and, you know, uses a toy and scratches up a little bit, you can easily just sand it and refinish it and everything looks great again. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pour a little bit on here. And it doesn't take very much. You're gonna put a super thin coating of this stuff on. And then I use a Bondo knife, like this, and then you just start squeegeeing it around. And you can see what I mean about this just making the colors of the wood pop. So like I say, that can right there, I've had for like 2 or 3 years, just because it used that little. And you can see I really over poured on that last bit, but it'll be okay. I'll show you how to salvage it. So we want to get as close to the edge. Now the thing with the wood oils and hard wax, you said I just drip down the edge. When you put this on, you don't want to let it get on a surface and then dry, and then you have to go over that because it can shade slightly different. So I just wanted to say I am not sponsored by Osmo. I just like their product. I like the way it handles. I like the way it goes on. It's a great product for a beginner to use because it's hard to screw up. It's a great product for, you know, seasoned woodworkers to use because it gives you a great finish. There are other wood oil finishes out there. I recommend you try as many of them as you can. Find out what you like. Find out what works with your system and go with that. Now this is just white woven nylon, you know, like a woven nylon pad, you know, basically it's a Scotch-Brite pad with very little abrasive to it. And so I use this, and I'm just gonna rub this in and get it all the way around, get it into all the surfaces. And then what this does is it makes sure that the finish penetrates the surface of the wood really well. And you get, it helps give you a more uniform finish across your piece. And then what we'll do is once all this is done, then we're going to take that plain white rag there, and you want to use a lint-free rag, but we're going to take that rag and we're going to wipe off all the excess. And you can put on, it says it's a 1-coat finish. I've never put on less than 2, just because I like the way the finish looks when you put on multiple layers. And so I've always put on at least 2, and I have put on up to 6 before. And it gives you really nice depth. It gives you a beautiful look and some real depth to the piece. So we put this on, we let it sit for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. You don't have to give it much. And you don't want to give it too much. You don't want to let it start drying and tacking up, because as you start to wipe it off, you don't want it to pull fibers off of your rag to, to add lint. Now, the cool thing about this stuff too is you don't have to worry about being in like a sterile environment. If it gets a little bit of dust on it, it's not going to matter because the finish is so thin on each layer that really the dust isn't even going to stay there. I'm going to wipe off most everything, and I'm only going to leave what's soaked in. We're just going to wipe off everything that's excess. And then when I'm done doing that, we'll take a flyby with the camera so you can see what this truly looks like even now. And this is before it's polished at all, before any other work is done on it. This is just how good it looks. So there you go. That's the first coat of Osmo. Okay, so the last step prior to framing the art piece, we didn't show, I don't know why, but we just didn't get footage of it, is to buff the second or third or fourth or how many coats of Osmo you put on with a microfiber bonnet for a polishing machine. And it just, it removes all the excess. It gives you a nice coating. It doesn't leave a lot of streaks and swirls. So that's how I do it.